Let's start with the issue of the coronavirus and the response. In particular, schools reopening. They reopen Monday for CCSD at UNLV. You've been an advocate. We've talked before about you want to get schools and businesses open pretty much ASAP in a safe manner. In your mind, how should schools reopen? Period.
Obviously, a safe, responsible way. And as you know, I have 5 children. I have one on the way. Sarah's actually pregnant with number 6. And, it's just very, very frustrating to me because you have kids that can go to private schools and they can actually go back to school. And then you have the kids in the public school that can't go back. It's very, very frustrating. My son, I have a very, very mixed diverse, depending upon what our child's need, because I can't afford to send them all to private school. One of my sons went back yesterday, and they had they wore masks. They had their desks 6 feet apart, and it was safe. And I feel safe sending my child back. My frustration is that, the parents that can't afford to send their kids to private schools right now, what are they going to do? They're going to have to hire tutors. Okay, they're going to have to hire daycare. And then they have to make a decision. Do I hire them or do I go back to work? It's not fair. That's why I am the biggest advocate for school choice. And I've said it before. I don't care if you're black, white, red, green, male, female, rich, poor. Every child deserves a right to a great education. And that's another reason why we have to get school choice out there. And look at it. Look at it right now in regards to school choice. You know what's so frustrating about this whole school choice thing? And I'm such an advocate and my opponent is so far against it. But it's kind of weird that my opponent, Susie Lee, she sends her kids to a $65,000 a year boarding school. So she believes in parents' choice, but she doesn't believe in parents' choice for the folks here in Nevada and in CD3. It's very, very frustrating.
Well, I want to try and stay specific to the issue of the coronavirus. You're talking about the differences in getting kids back to school, which can't really be argued because there is differences depending on what school, charter schools, etc. In 2 colleges, Notre Dame and UNC out in North Carolina, they tried to go back to school, acknowledging that's higher education. We're not talking necessarily apples to apples here. And immediately they went right back to online education. It didn't work for them. Why would it work in Nevada?
Well, you're talking about 2 different states.
No, but just broadly, we're talking about the coronavirus here. They did try and start other public schools around the country. Why is Nevada different? Why would it work here?
And in some states they work, some states they don't. But they're not even giving an option to send our kids back. Originally, Sisolak wanted to send them back 3 days and then home 2 days. And that makes no sense. That goes exactly back to what you're saying. If you could send them in 3 days, why is that safer than letting them go back, obviously 5 days? We do need to put in precautions. We want to make sure that our teachers are safe. We want to make sure that our children are safe. And that's obviously number 1 priority. But right now, they should have the option. And if a parent feels safe enough to send their child back to school, they can. And if they don't feel safe, that's not a problem. It was like my son. My son broke his leg. He broke his leg. Okay. He couldn't go back to school. So he had to do distance learning. We already have it in effect. So I think it should be up to the parents.
Final question on this. Do you think there should be some sort of a benchmark for, so let's say the kids go back to school. Is there a threshold where if cases get too high or there's too many issues of illnesses in schools, let's hope there isn't, but let's just hypothetically, is there a threshold where you say, okay, yes, we do need to close schools. Yes, we do need to close businesses. Yes, we do need to shut down again.
That would just depend, theoretically, because that's what you're saying. At a random, theoretically, obviously, if we had an influx and every child got it, yeah, or, a huge percentage of children did, then obviously we wouldn't want our kids in harm's way.
Of
I would
course.
never want to put my children in harm's way.
Of course. Let's talk about the recovery from the coronavirus. We've seen stimulus packages go through. There's another one they're talking about on Capitol Hill right now. It's kind of stuck between Congress and the Senate. If you're elected to Congress, what do you think would be the right solution to trying to help the country recover?
I'll tell you what the wrong solution is. I'll tell you the wrong solution is that when we had the CARES Act and we were trying to get that through, where was my opponent, Susie Lee? She went on vacation for 2 weeks. Her and Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi was showing off her ice cream in her freezer, okay? We need folks that will go back to DC. We need leaders that will go back, stay there, and get things accomplished. And right now, we don't have that, okay? You're gonna get me fired up here. I don't want to do the WWE deal, but this is an issue that I'm very, very fired up about. The fact that President Trump had to come in and sign an executive order for $400 to get folks money. To get folks money because they couldn't pay their mortgage. They couldn't pay their rent. They were losing their 401ks or their retirements. This is unacceptable. And the fact that the president had to come in and do it when Susie Lee wouldn't come to the table and said she came back here. And where has she been? She was out front lobbying at the post office.
You say that the president had to sign this executive order, but the House has passed another measure, and it has been stalled between the House and so it's not as though whether it's Congresswoman Lee or any other person in Congress, Republican, things have happened there, and if you were serving, things would have happened there too. So is that a fair accusation to make, that your opponent isn't involved when the Congress did in fact pass a new measure? It's just that the Senate won't take it up, and things have stalled in between the two houses.
Here's the issue. We need folks to work together, okay? We already know Susie Lee's record. She already voted 98% with Nancy Pelosi and AOC, the far left radical regime. We don't have folks working together, okay? That's what's different about me. I'm not a politician, okay? I am a voice for the people to get things done. So when I go to Washington, D.C., I'm going to spend more than 3/4 of my time with the other side, with Democrats. Understand what their issues are. And if they want this, and this, then I can go back to my caucus and say, hey, look, they want this, and this. And I understand. I see where they're coming from. And we can give them this and this, but we need this and this. And that's the problem right now with Washington, D.C. Folks aren't working together. And that's what I'm going to bring to the table. And I'm going to be that voice for the people here in Nevada that will fight for them and protect them.
Let's talk about transparency. And I have a feeling I know what your answer is going to be on this, but with regards to the initial PPP loans and with regards to any other sort of stimulus or recovery package moving forward, are we as the public aware enough of what's included in any sort of government package, and what would you do in Congress to make sure we are aware of what's actually getting through?
Well, it is transparency, and that's one of the major issues here. Folks, we're out there, and I get these, so does Susie Lee, where what each side is fighting for, but it doesn't get out there. It doesn't get down to break down exactly what it is. Transparency is so very, very important right now with this next stimulus plan that's coming out, because not only do they don't know where, folks don't know where this money's going to. Right now we have, folks getting $600. They're getting more than they were making before. And that's an issue that we really need to take our time on and understand. But at the same time, let's not wait for 2 weeks. I mean, transparency is a major, major issue. Let me talk about transparency for a second. Let's talk about transparency and the $5.6 million that Susie Lee lobbied for. She took for her and her husband's business. She lied about it. And then when asked if any Democrat leaders informed her that it was self-serving, what did she say? Nope, no idea what you're talking about. But then when MSNBC of all stations called her out on it, she said, okay, I did it. Nobody wants a leader that's self-serving, that will go to Washington, D.C. and fill their own pockets during COVID.
I would just say, though, and we've spoken with Congresswoman Lee specific to that issue, she has said broadly that it wasn't just her husband's company that was involved. This was broadly for the casino industry. Does that soothe your
She fired
concern?
a ton of her employees before. She got that money sooner than, heck, we needed it. We have a restaurant. We're hurting. We didn't fire any of our employees. Okay? And what did she do? She lobbied for it. She sent a letter to Secretary Mnuchin and asked for it specifically. And then she got it. And then where did that money go? It didn't even go to the businesses here in Nevada. She sent it to outside businesses. The end of the day, it comes down to, you have somebody, and I know this because I've talked to Republicans, Democrats, independents, libertarians. They don't want a multi-millionaire, self-serving politician going up to Washington to fill their own pockets. We can't have that. We can't have it.
How are you in Congress? How would you be able to ensure that here in Nevada, the state, the industries, the people get what they need to recover? And how are the people not getting that now with Congresswoman Lee?
Well, I'll tell you right now, it's a broader topic, but we're having a hard time processing unemployment checks right now. How do you think, when we have this mail-in ballot, how the post office is going to be able to process all these hundreds and hundreds of thousands of ballots? It's not going to happen. These are glitches. These are major issues, right? That the far left radical regime is implementing. That it's not helpful. We need, like I said, transparency, accountability, efficiency. If we can get those in the next bill, and it's not by sitting here at home lobbying in front of a post office, it's about being in Washington, D.C., talking to the folks, working with them, making sure that we get people to work together and make sure we get the right amounts of money to the people the right way. But it's not going to happen when our Congresswoman is here and she's not working for us.
Just very quickly, this isn't necessarily specific to Congresswoman Lee, but broadly, you're talking a lot about reaching across the aisle. You're not the first politician to say that, or I should say, you're not the first candidate to say that. I know you don't like being called a politician. How do you plan to start a conversation working across the aisle when you refer to Democrats as the radical regime, or some of them anyway?
I'm not saying
or the radical.
I'm saying the far left radical regime she's working with.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, just to finish, how do you start a conversation, or how do you have a conversation when that is the sort of category that you or many of your supporters might put the other political party in? Doesn't that put you make it hard to have that conversation to begin with?
No, because I'm talking about the far left radical regime. I'm talking about the AOCs, okay? The true swamp of the Democrat Party. I know that the moderates, they want to work together. I know that we're in a moderate district. CD3 is a moderate district. And they want to work with both sides, the independents, libertarians, Democrats, Republicans. We want to work together. The folks we know we can work together, are these moderate Democrats that want to try to get things accomplished. And those are the folks that I'm going to work with. I'll work with them every day.
Switching gears, we were talking before we started about some of your recent endorsements, law enforcement endorsements, particularly the Maine Union for Metro Police and other law enforcement agencies here in Southern Nevada. There's been a lot of talk about police reform bills, both on the state level and on the national level. What does police reform look like to you?
Well, in regards to the endorsement, like I said, I'm honored, humbled to be supported by, I think it's 23 or 24 different associations, over 100, I believe it's 100 different organizations, 10,000 police officers. Right now in our district, people want to be protected. Okay, they want somebody to step up and be their voice and make sure they're protected. And like I said, earlier, the fact is they pulled that endorsement from Susie Lee because she's not interested in protecting. She's interested in, well, other things, hanging out at her home for 2 weeks when we're working on the CARES Act. But, this is a time in my district right now, I talk to these folks. They don't want less police officers. They want more police officers. They want to make sure that if there's an issue, they have a police officer there to protect them. And, we are in a situation right now where, like I said earlier, I do not believe in federal overreach. I believe that the state and local level leaders should be making these rules. I don't believe that a congressman in Maryland should be making the laws for our state here in Nevada. We have many, many different issues. So in regards to police reform, like I said earlier, my father was a police officer, and I respect our police officers. I stand with our police officers. I'll never defund them. And I want to make sure that they go out there and they can protect the community with everything they need to come back home to their families.
Just real quickly, you mentioned something about federal law enforcement, and I think you were referring to, or maybe you weren't, issues of what has happened recently, federal law enforcement going into places up in Portland, Chicago, I think Milwaukee, other cities around the country. Do you then not support the president's plan on that?
We are in scary times. Okay. Like I said earlier, I have 6 children and 1 on the way. This is a very, very scary time to bring a baby into this world. We have people trying to burn down, rioters trying to burn down buildings, burn down churches, shooting police officers like we had right here in Nevada, right here in Las Vegas, in the head. Okay, police officers around the country being shot and killed. And we need to protect these folks. Okay, there's a difference between protesting and rioting. Okay, we can't have rioting. If it happened here, if it happened in your backyard, would you want protection? Because I would.
I'd like to address something that your opponent has addressed herself in an interview that we did a couple of weeks ago. It's a personal issue for you. Calls to 911 back in 2018, no charges, no arrests. You've talked about this, I believe, not too long ago. You previously had an arrest. You went into a deferment program. Democrats have made it a part of their campaign against you. Can you address those charges for the constituents in your district and help articulate if your past might affect your judgment in the future if you're elected to Congress? Specific maybe to police reform or broadly other issues.
Yeah, absolutely. The problem with Washington, D.C. is mudslinging. You're going to take whatever you got and you're going to throw it up against the wall. You're going to see what sticks, right? The fact is I'm going to say this bluntly and loud and clear. I've never been convicted of a crime in my life. Okay? Now, in regards to the 911 calls, it happened. My wife and I, we got into a verbal argument. Okay. And nothing came of it. There was no arrests, no convictions. And later on that day, my wife and I went out to dinner, and we're happily married. I love my wife. I wouldn't be here right now without her. And we have a baby on the way. We are very, very happily married, and I'm blessed to have such an amazing wife. In regards to any other incidents you're talking about, then you can go to the Review Journal. I gave all of my Oppo research to them. I said, here you go. And if you want to read it, you can read it. It's online. It shows Dan Rodimer was never convicted of a crime in his life. So if they want to throw that at me, if that's all Susie Lee has to throw at me, compared to somebody who decided to, let's say, take $5.6 million in PPP loans and lie about it, or let's say, sell off all your stock the day you found out in a closed meeting with Congress, and then the following week buy up all the best big box grocery stock and other pharmaceutical stocks that skyrocketed. If she wants to throw that at me, it doesn't really matter, because the facts are people are going to see through it. They're going to see that they have a self-serving politician that went to enrich herself and make more money for her family than try to work for the families out there. And that's what I will do when I'm your congressman. I will be that voice. I will fight for you, and I will be there for you.
And just to be clear, I'm personally not terribly interested in mudslinging from anyone either. I think what I'm trying to just get at, and I've asked other politicians this too, is just, and you've even addressed this with regards to your opponent, the idea of your personal life impacting potentially judgment in office. And my question is simply specific to this issue involving that aspect of your past. Will that affect your judgment in some fashion moving forward if there are issues involving, I don't know, I'm just saying this as potential issues. Let's just say police reform, domestic violence issues, other issues that can be addressed legislatively. Does your experiences in the past affect your judgment of that moving forward?
Well, my experiences in the past, being a former WWE pro wrestler, owning a number of small businesses, very successful businesses, going to law school, understanding the law, and bringing that to Congress, absolutely will help. Everything that I've been through is a life lesson. Okay? The negative things that you're saying that happened when I was in college, okay? Life lessons. Like I said, I've never been convicted of a crime in my life. But the fact is have I learned from everything across the board throughout all these years, from high school all the way through to law school, having all these opportunities? That's what I'm going to bring. I'm a regular person. I'm a regular guy. I'm a family man. I own a small business. I'm not like, these average, pretty much, a lot of these politicians, including Susie Lee. I'm not a multimillionaire. I am different. And I'm passionate about helping Nevada and fighting for them and having a voice for these people out here that need it right now. They need it more than ever. They need to be able to get money back in their pocket. They need to be able to go back to work. And after this COVID situation, we're going to need to bring jobs back here. We're going to need to bring manufacturing back here. We can't rely on other countries. God forbid, what happens? What happens if we have this again? If another scenario happens like this again? Do we want to rely on other countries for ventilators and pharmaceuticals? No. Let's bring those jobs back here. Let's bring them back to Nevada's 3rd district. Let's get folks trained. Let's get them back to schools, to technical schools, so they can come out and they can have an electrician's license or an HVAC license or a nursing. My daughter, I just put her in a technical school for nursing, 18 months. But these are the things we need to grow. to prosper, to rebuild our economy.
How do you do that? Money? Just prop up, let's say, the casinos on the Strip to make sure that they don't all go under and they're here when the restrictions are lifted? What can you do? It's for any politician, it's a challenging situation.
It's going to be extremely challenging. It's going to be extremely, extremely challenging.
So what do you do?
Get everybody back to work. I mean, right now we have 4, I don't know how many casinos that went dark. We got a lot of them. You know, we have huge numbers of people leaving the state because we're the entertainment capital of the US. You know, that's what we thrive on. And we need jobs. We need to, if we bring back manufacturing, it creates jobs. I talked today when I got the ABC contractors endorsement. I talked to them about it. And what do they need the most when we start rebuilding? Because we will rebuild. I will not give up on Nevada. I will fight and fight and fight and fight to protect us. But when that time comes, we need folks to be able to be properly trained to get out there and start working again. And that's what I do.
Sorry to cut you off. Sorry there. Final question. I do want to ask one question about immigration. There have been efforts in the White House to get rid of DACA. You've watched it as closely as I have. And we've seen the effects here in Las Vegas. Would you be in favor of passing any kind of legislation to to get rid of DACA, period? And then broadly, what needs to happen with immigration? What would you do as a congressman on the border that is either a continuation of what's been going on under President Trump or maybe something slightly different down the line?
I get this question a lot in regards to immigration, in regards to protecting our borders. And it is an immigration issue. And there's a lot of different ideas out there how to fix this. Okay. As of right now, when I get there, I will listen. I will listen to both sides. All right. We have laws in effect right now. And before we start putting in new laws, we need to, follow those laws. In regards to the border right now, I'll say it again. I have 5 children. I got 1 on the way. I'm worried about, obviously drug smugglers and sex traffickers and cartel members coming over. I don't want them coming to Nevada. I don't want people coming out here and pushing drugs on my kids, or sex traffickers. It's grotesque. And, President Trump, he came in, he wanted to protect our borders. Susie Lee, she voted against it. She voted against protecting our borders. I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, independent, libertarian, nonpartisan, it doesn't matter who you are. You want to protect your borders. You want to protect the folks here. And she voted against it. She voted against protecting the people in Nevada. So these are things that when we get to Washington, D.C., and we will win, I know we're going to win. These are issues that we're going to have to look at the big picture, sit down, and work together on it.
So just to be clear, I'm hearing things that you're concerned about and this is the last question, frustrations with Congresswoman Lee, but I'm not hearing a solution or at least a desire to follow the existing plans from the White House. So do you have any of those?
I believe that there is an immigration issue. Absolutely.
But do you believe in some kind of an immigration solution?
Absolutely.
What would that be?
The solution is going to be, when we get there, I want to look at everything across the board, because right now, both sides are literally in gridlock. They're not working together on it. The lines it takes a long time to get through the immigration system. Does it need to be fixed? Absolutely. But do the folks that want to, come over from other countries, jump in line? So we need to work together on it. We have a lot of great folks that are here, that have worked hard, right? And this is something that we need to work on together when we get there.
I'm out of questions. I appreciate your time, Dan. Good to see you again.
Thank
Good
you.
luck to you. I'll talk to you later, all right?
God bless Nevada and God bless America.
Take care of yourself.